Hello, and my name is Keisha Kirby. And today, class, I am coming to you talking about hair structure. There are three main parts to the hair structure. And the first one we're going to talk about today will be called the cuticle. The cuticle. The cuticle is your outermost layer. And you want to keep this in mind. It's called your protector. The next one is going to be called your medulla. Your medulla is called your innermost layer. And that is going to be called your core. Then we'll have what's called your cortex. Your cortex, that is going to be called your interlayer. That is going to be considered your most delicate. So, remember, in your hair structure, you have what's called your cuticle, which is your outermost layer. It's going to be considered your protector. And then you're going to have your medulla, which is going to be called your core. That is the center, your innermost layer. And then you have your cortex, which is called your interlayer, where it is what's the most delicate, the most sensitive, what you want to keep protected. Okay, class. Now, remember I told you that there were three parts to the hair. But when we look at these three parts, we don't see it with the naked eye. All we see is loose hair strands, correct? Class, that's what we see. The fine microscope, you see is one huge piece of hair. So that little bitty strand of hair can make it look huge. As you look closely at the slide, you can see the little ridges as I mark them out with my red marker. How those ridges in here on that smooth little bitty strand of hair, you see ridges. That is called your cuticle. Now class, let's go into looking at our board here. When we look at our board and our hair structure, remember I told you there were three parts to the hair structure that I want you to remember. Remember, the first one was our cuticle. Our cuticle was our outermost layer of the hair. It also protects our cortex, and it has the transparent scales. And you guys, I want you to remember this, that if that cuticle is raised open, that means that the trash and the dirt and the dryness can rob our cortex of its moisture. And remember, this is our cortex, the lighter part of the picture that we're trying to protect, and this is our cuticle. So this is where our hair color comes in at, our melanin and our natural pigments and our moisture. That is why we need that cuticle to stay closed, tight, and shut. And our medulla, which is the yellow part, that's the core. That is the center of the hair. It doesn't serve a purpose, and it is absent. Everyone doesn't always have one. So remember, our cuticle. Now class, let's look at it, the hair strand from the top view, so that you can really get a good picture of it. The medulla, we know is our core. It's known as our core, and it is absent, and everyone doesn't have one, correct? Class, our cortex is called the inner part, which is the inner but not the innermost, because that's the core. That's just the inner part. That's what, class, what's in there? What are we trying to protect? Yes, moisture. Yes, protecting it to keep it from being dry and broken and brittle. And our outermost layer is called our what, class? Cuticle. Correct. It is called our cuticle. And it has what, class? Scales. Yes. And it does what? Protect the who? Cortex. Now, class, does everyone have a medulla? No. Correct. Now, class, I know this seems odd and a little bit funny looking. Why are you showing me an apple? The reason why I'm showing you an apple is to really break it down to you and to really make it make good plain sense to you. Now, whenever we have an apple, we always know it has that thin skin around it. Correct, class? So that skin, we're going to think of it as our cuticle on our hair. Because what happens when we peel the skin off this nice, fresh, fleshy apple that we love to eat? It turns what? Brown. It turns brown. And when it turns brown, normally that means the air has hit it, the skin is loose, or it's been peeled off, and it's no longer good after so long because it's turned brown and it begins to wilt away. Correct, class? And no one wants to eat a brown looking apple, right? Then we have what's called the core, the center part of the apple. Now, in that center part of the apple, that's where the seeds lie. It doesn't really serve a purpose. We can't eat that core. There's nothing we can do with that core. So this core, although all apples will have one, big or small, and medium, it doesn't serve a purpose where we can eat it. But that skin serves a purpose, correct, class? It keeps the apple from turning brown. And the flesh part of it that we love to eat, it keeps it where it's wanting to be at. So the next time you eat that apple and you begin to peel it, class, think about the cuticle is the skin. And think about the fleshy part, the fresh part of it, which is the fleshy part, that we want to scrump down and eat. That as soon as we peel it, if we don't eat it fast, it begins to turn brown because the air has hit it and it's no longer protected. And oh, we'll toss that core of the apple in the trash because it's just like the medulla. It has no purpose and it's not always present in the hair. So, eat an apple and think about that hair strand. That's the end of our lesson today. And I am Keisha Kirby with Hair Structure.